You're operating from a place of hope. Hope is good, right? But hope can be a terrible strategy, right? Hope is good, but it can be a terrible strategy. Write that down, ladies and gentlemen. Every request, warm conversations, every one of those interactions, the affectionate moment. You're sitting on the couch watching a show together. About this happened to me. We were watching a show years back, I think there was a show, something about marriage. Watching this show together, it looks like there was reconciliation. I was like, wow, this must be saying something to her. We were so cozy and everything, but there was an active separation going on, and she had not decided, right? And that gave me some hope to work with, right? But hope is a terrible strategy right now, because until I had proper strategy, right? Hope is a good ingredient. It can help if you actually have strategy, right? But we still had family outings. All the family outings, they were basically evidence, right? In my mind, as it's probably evidence in your mind right now, that the marriage is going to come back to what it used to be. Well, my marriage never came back to what it used to be. It became better, right? But it's because, again, eventually I figured something out, right? So instead of observing the complete pattern, you emotionally enlarge, that's hope. Like everything is magnified in those moments, only to get disappointed again when she reaffirms or he reaffirms that, no, what I want is that we go our separate ways, right? So hope is healthy when it is grounded in evidence. Write that down, okay? When it's grounded in evidence, evidence cannot be one event, okay? It has to be a pattern, right? There could be one-off events. You have to be careful with that. You actually have to know what you're doing. Hope becomes dangerous when it requires you to continue to reinterpret avoidance as progress. Like, oh, we need some space apart. It just means that no, you're not sure of what is going on, and that's not a good place to be. What you will find is that you continue to overgive. You're pouring from an empty cup. That's what that means. If you're pouring from an empty cup, eventually you're going to deplete. Okay? This is the enemy of not just you, but even the other person, because they might just be confused, right? They might just be confused. They might be in harm's way. As a matter of fact, because sometimes when you're confused, you become vulnerable to the enemy, external factors, right? So you're overpouring yourself into that. It's not sustainable, right? Sustainability is key in any type of systems you're trying to build, any type of endeavor, any type of achievement you're trying to achieve, objective you're trying to achieve. So overgiving, because you don't want to lose what seems like an apparent progress, you become more available than the situation reasonably requires. You're pouring from an empty cup. Okay, you're being depleted yourself. You answer every call, you solve every crisis. Again, you're the one that runs to the highway to fix the tires. Again, there's AAA. Okay, if they don't want to be in the marriage, have them call AAA. Have them call their brother, call AAA. Something. Now, if you could, you should help. But what I'm saying is that I'm just giving that as an example. What I'm saying that you're going out of your way over and over when you are being emptied out. Particularly, forget the physical stuff. Even when it comes to emotion, from an emotional place, you're depleting. You're not working on yourself, but nonetheless, you're looking at all these isolated signals to determine that the marriage is moving forward. No, if it seems stagnant, it's dying. And you have to acknowledge that and see that for what it is, all right? You're still answering calls. You're solving every crisis, performing favors. Performing favors. It's not coming from you. It's something you do from a place of fear, right? You're absorbing extra responses, right? You're canceling your plans. You're canceling your life endeavor, life mission, because you're hopeful that maybe the marriage will come back. There's nothing wrong with that. You're fighting for your marriage. I'm just saying it's not about something wrong with your actions. It's about, are you actually creating the result that you want? Are you actually creating the objective that you're going for? That's what we need to assess, right? Your giving is no longer organized by generosity. It is organized by fear. Let's talk about avoidant. What does this mean? Because I didn't really explain that earlier on, right? What is avoidant in this respect, right? You avoid anything that might expose what seems like a hopeful direction, right? You don't want to touch it. You don't want to mess it up, right? Again, fear, right? You don't want to, I don't want to mess it up, right? See, when you say you lost yourself, this is what it means. Like, you are making these decisions to take certain actions that you don't really feel like it's your decision. It's making you resent yourself, actually, right? You don't, the discussions you're having, right? You don't really want to discuss your expectations so that it doesn't piss the other person off, right? Avoidant, right? You don't differentiate parental responsibilities from relationship privileges. They're still enjoying the fact that you guys have to be together because of parenting, but you don't separate the two because it's not because you're doing it for an objective, because it's traced to the objective. You're doing it because you're actually afraid you might lose them or the direction that you're trying to get. You're not being intentional about creating the direction from the different ingredients that actually create desire, attraction, where they choose to be with you. You're doing everything from a place of fear, right? So you may even tell yourself that asking for clarity, right? Asking for reassurance, because asking for reassurance can be very annoying and can be not sexy, right? Can be needy behavior, clingy behavior. All those things will kill attraction. So this is why this is more an art than it's an exact science, right? But you can act, there's a way to do it that you're not coming off as needy. You're coming off as a person who is sure of themselves. Because if you're sure of yourself, you're not asking for reassurance, but yes, you can seek clarity for somebody who seems confused. And that's not pressure. It becomes pressure when you're kind of like moving around the block or you're playing Mr. Nice Guy, or it becomes pressure because they know, they can feel it, right? Or they would just rather stay because they're comfortable, right? So indefinite avoidance is still a decision, right? If you're avoiding heavy conversations, right? If you're actively avoiding that from a place of fear, if your objective is to, because if it's motivated by fear, the avoidance, then that's a problem, right? Because that's actually going to create more separation. They're going to get comfortable, but their decision is their decision. They might not be intentionally comfortable, right? It's like they're getting everything that they could ask for without the pressure. Some people will outrightly tell you that, yeah, I regret getting married. We shouldn't have gotten married. We were better off as single, we're just dating. Some people outrightly tell you that, but it's actually bullshit, right? Because anything you're doing in life that's worthwhile must be official. Okay, so if you continue to do avoidance, so you're actively in separation, you stay in limbo for a very, very long time. So when we say, so circling back to separation again now from a place of we go through ambiguity, right? Because there's no clarity, right? It's not, you're not sure, right? And I'm not asking you to be asking for assurance from the other person again, but to seek clarity and to be assertive about it. You can actually do that and actually look super sexy doing that. Write down what I just told you. Okay. There's a difference between asking for reassurance. You're asking the other person to validate your sense of value, and seeking clarity, right? Like what do you want to do? Let me know when you change your mind. Oh, I understand. I understand that it's been rough in a marriage, But let me know when you change your mind so we can work on it. You can actually say that and come off super sexy. All right. And then you can actually literally transfer all the anxiety you're operating from, that you used to operate from, you transfer it over to them, right? So now they're confused. Curiosity, attraction. I'll go over that in a second. But ambiguity means the arrangement becomes comfortable enough to continue, but insufficient to heal. The marriage needs to heal. Okay, and you need to be able to track that progress in a pragmatic way, as close as possible to pragmatic, without asking the other person to show you. You need to know what you're doing. When you ask them to show you, that's the reassurance that comes off as needy, as clingy, and that can push them even further away because they don't want you in that form. They want you confident. Confidence is sexy, right? They want you to know what you want. They want you to put your foot down, not on their neck, but as for yourself, your own personal boundaries, that you're not going to pour from an empty cup until you deplete. So this ambiguity thing is that they're still receiving support from you, so they're comfortable. Like, okay, I'll just see tomorrow. They wake up tomorrow. They keep, because they trust that you're going to still be in that same position, in limbo, even if they don't decide. Right? So the marriage is neither fully restored nor honestly reorganized. It needs to be reorganized. All right. So that circles right back to separation, because that's active